I'm Miriam Altman, and I've had quite a varied career. I'm trained as an economist. I've worked in business. I was chief of strategy at a company called Telkom, and I've worked in community organizations for my entire life, my entire professional life. I've led civic organizations. Even when I'm in a job, I've led civic organizations, and I've led research organizations. So I've had quite a varied life. You could say my profession is an economist, but it's not really how I see myself. It's how many other people see me. Through my adult life, not even just my professional life, I have been building organizations, bringing people around big ideas that they can't see the point to, but which I believe are important, and make people believe in something, bring resources around, and make change. So just as an example, these days there's a big global Me Too movement. In 1994, I set up an NGO that focused on creating legislation in this country for sexual violence at work. At that time, you couldn't argue a case in court. There was no language around it in this country. There was almost no discussion about rape, even though sexual violence in this country is quite prevalent. And with a group of trade union women, we set up this organization in 1994, got labor legislation, set up approaches to arbitration and mediation, did training. All the standards that are used today comes from that time, and that was a little NGO of 3 people and a board of women leaders, the very few women leaders at the time in the trade union movement, and we came together and did this thing. That kind of thing thrills me. It thrills me when I have an idea and people are saying, no, it's crazy, you shouldn't do it. And then I raise resources and bring people around, and then it just becomes normal. So I've been setting up organizations since I was about 20 and bringing people around in that way. Now I'm setting up, we've just started a youth leadership program with high school students to get them to learn how to effect constructive institutional change, and learn all of these tricks of the trade of how you work with leadership, how you bring your peers around, how you can become a leader starting at that age group. And again, it probably took me about 3 years working with youth leaders, but it took me a long time to raise money because people say they want youth leadership, but actually they don't. They find it very threatening. But now that we've started, people are feeling differently about it, and I think we're going to take off. So that's the kind of thing I find quite thrilling. I grew up with boys. I have 3 brothers, and I grew up to think that boys were better, and I wanted to be more like a boy, and I was competitive with boys, and my friends were boys, and I didn't wear pink, and I didn't wear girls' clothes, and that's what I thought was important. And as I've gotten older, for many years now, I've become more of a woman's woman. So I don't feel that way anymore, and I wouldn't say that I had the kind of mentorship that men have. I wouldn't say that I've had, but I try to provide that to younger women now. So I mentor a lot of younger women. I wouldn't say that I have a particular person in mind. When I think back, almost abstractly, I think of my grandmother and my great-grandmother and the kinds of trials and tribulations they went through in being immigrants. I think of my husband's mother who, under apartheid, they had no income, they didn't have education, but somehow she raised 7 children who all have master's degrees, which is almost unheard of. That kind of discipline and making it through very difficult circumstances is something I find very inspiring. Life is very different. There's significantly more opportunity for women. There was more for me also, than my mother, but significantly more opportunity. I think now, knowing what I know, I would have been bolder. I would have not tried to be a man. I would have, you know, it's important just to define yourself as you are, where your inspiration is. And, you know, the environment's pretty hard for women, especially in occupations that are dominated by men. Discrimination's a funny thing, and people make your life very difficult, actually. But I reach out to women, I support women. I think other women need to do that also. I think being much more active in finding mentors, being more open to getting help and asking for help, and just being bolder.